This is Super Yacht News with E. Sisman. Hi and welcome back to the channel. It's been a few days since I've done an update, so let's do that right now. So we've got some quite a bit of news actually to get on with. Now, if you frequent Boat International, you may have seen a story about it fairly recently where they talked about this vessel. It was the biggest vessel of 2022, and it was this first sighting. The size is believed to be 145 meters or 476 foot, and it's still being constructed. It's still in two parts, as you can see on the Boat International website. And that was all that was mentioned about it, really, that it was a big boat, 145 meters, bigger than Charizard, bigger than Crescent. So one of the probably top 10 largest or longest yachts in the world upon completion. Well, the New York Times were the first to reveal the owner of this vessel. Now, he's not a Russian. He's actually a Ukrainian called Rinat Akhmetov. Now, he is the owner of, well, he's the richest man in Ukraine. And one of the things he does own is or what he did own is the steel mill in Mariupol, where the Ukrainian soldiers had that last stand there. He's actually the owner of that property. And anyway, he is a big businessman. He owns TV stations. He owns a lot of things in Ukraine. And he was actually, he's actually the owner of this vessel, which is still in build. Now, obviously that information did not come from Lürssen, who are building the vessel, of course, because it's a massive 145 meter vessel, and Lürssen build all the big vessels. The reason why it's known is because the owner's company, System Capital Management, and Akhmetov actually made a statement through that company. So there's a spokesperson at Akhmetov's company, and he said about the yacht that Mr. Akhmetov is actually considering selling the yacht before he even takes delivery of it. Given the current circumstances, we are considering its possible sale. That's what the spokesman said. So he is now considering selling this vessel. So that's very interesting, isn't it? A sign of the times. So yeah, we'll see if he does. Obviously, Lürssen are tight-lipped about this. They are super secretive about anybody's ownership of these vessels. In actual fact, in the Monaco Yacht Show a few years ago, I went to Lürssen and I said, "Look, can I do a video with somebody? What I'd like to do is I'd like to say, I come in and I say I want to buy a super yacht. What's the process?" So it was just a generalized, how does it work? And they said, "No, we can't do that." So they wouldn't even tell me what the process was. If I was to say, like, theoretically, I came in and say, right, I want to buy a yacht, how does it work? And they wouldn't even tell me that. So they are very, very secretive about this. And there's not anything sinister about that. Obviously, all super yacht owners want the utmost secrecy when it comes to building these things, the privacy, So I'll move on now to the next story. This is about Motor Yachts Amedea. It's been a bit quiet lately. Obviously, after everything that happened previously, the vessel is now still in Fiji, waiting for the outcome of what the court judgment is going to be on the vessel. There has been some background that's come out. I'm not quite sure how this was released, whether it was anonymous sources and stuff like that. But a lot of the information from that court case, remember there was a court case and the transcript was redacted. Well, a lot of the information that was redacted has now come out, and it goes to how the FBI claim to have identified the yacht as belonging to Suleiman Kerimov. The crew would use code names for the owner, and they would have like G0 for Kerimov, G1 for the wife, G2 for the daughter, and so on. Now, this is not it's not a slam dunk by any means. This is very common on super yachts to have a code name for the owners. I've actually talked about this in a previous video, one of my Q&As. I talked about it a while ago. They'll use things like gold, talking about the owner, or so that on the radio, it's usually for communications, whether it be WhatsApp or a messenger app, or whether it's on the radios, and they'll say, gold is in the tender heading back to the boat, or P1, Papa 1, the owner, and then P2 is the wife, things like that. The problem I've got with that is G stands for guest, right? So guest 0. So it could be a guest comes on board, you use that system for every guest that comes on board. But it should be noted that Amadeia is not a charter vessel, so it's not like they are chartering and using the same codes for whichever family comes on board. So what is interesting, and this goes more towards ownership, is that they were saying that the FBI said that the family, Kerry Moores' family, were involved in making modifications to the vessel, such as the installation of a pizza oven. They wanted to have plug sockets added in bathrooms, and also they found a text, a crew member discussing a possible, and this is the quote, upcoming G0 guest trip, noting he wants the quickest jet skis available, so they'll need to buy new jet skis. Now, generally, you would not have somebody who doesn't own a vessel asking for plug sockets to be installed into a guest cabin, right, into a bathroom. So that does go more towards people making those kinds of decisions being owners of that vessel. What they were saying about the vessel is that after leaving Fiji, they were going to the Philippines to a dry dock. And one of the crew allegedly wrote to a family member saying, "We're not going to Russia," and then put a shush emoji after it. That seems to clearly say that that they were going to Russia, but that also could have just been a bad joke. So the Justice Department said that it didn't believe paperwork showing that Amadeia was next headed to the Philippines, arguing that it was really destined for Vladivostok or elsewhere in Russia. So court documents show the company that Hanif represents, this is the defense lawyer, Milner Marine Investments, they are the legal owner of the vessel, the Cayman Islands flag vessel, and Milmarine is owned on paper by Eduard Kudenatov. Now, this is the person that the defense are saying owns the vessel. Now, this is also who they are saying owns Shahrazad, which has been arrested in Italy, right? So his name's been attached to both of these vessels. Now, a combination of over $1 billion worth of yachts. Now, what the FBI are arguing is he can't afford to own those two vessels because he's not wealthy enough. So what they said is the fact that Kudenatov is being held out as the owner of two of the largest super yachts on record, both linked to sanctioned individuals, suggests that Kudenatov is being used as a clean, unsanctioned straw owner to conceal the true beneficial owners, the FBI wrote in an affidavit. Now, Mr. Kudenatov actually signed an affidavit saying he did own Motor Yacht Amadeia. And Hanif wrote in an appeal, which he never used because the court actually took up the case. He said that it was very thin, the arguments that the FBI had to prove ownership of that vessel. Now, what I would say is every crew member who works on board that vessel knows who owns it, without a shadow of a doubt. So I believe that on Friday, the final judgment or the next hearing for this case is going to be heard in the court in Fiji. So stay tuned for updates on that. One other story, guys. Hysan, remember we talked about Hysan? They were having problems because Vagit Alekperov was the owner of Hysan Yachts, Dutch yacht builders, but Russian owned. He's under sanctions by the UK, and a lot of the companies that supply equipment and expertise to Hysan are British companies, and they were unable to do any work with them because he's under sanctions with the UK. He's not currently under EU sanctions, however. This was causing big problems for Hysan, and they even talked about bankruptcy. Now, the good news is that Mr. Alekperov has sold his shares of the company to a foundation, a Dutch foundation, and it's not known how much he got for those shares, but he was able to do that because, as I said, he's not currently under EU sanctions. So the company now is Dutch owned again, which I'm sure all the Dutch will love. And that's great news because it means that all of the companies in the UK can now re-establish that work that they were doing, and the yachts can be completed and business can go back to normal, assuming that the yachts they're building are not owned by sanctioned Russians. But that's great news for Hyson. I'm really happy about that. And all the people, there's over 1,000 people that work at Hyson. And then you've got all of these UK companies that will also have the benefit of being able to work with them again. So that's great news. One other thing before I go, Motiat Nord, you'll remember Nord, has been in Vladivostok for a couple of months now and hasn't been any sign of life there. Now, what happened is the crew that took it there, as far as I'm aware, the British crew that took the vessel there, once the vessel was delivered to Vladivostok, they left and went back to the UK. Now, what I would imagine, if that did happen, what I would imagine has happened now is that they've got a new crew, and the vessel left Vladivostok last night, and it's out in the North China Sea, up by Korea. It's got a destination on AIS, or it had a destination on AIS of somewhere in South Korea, but I don't think that it's planning on going there. Now, the vessel sailed south, and then it stopped dead in the water, and it's been flickering in and out of AIS communication for the last 24 hours. I don't really know what's going on there, but the vessel's been sat there, not moving at all. Now, what I think is happening, I think they're on sea trials. They've either had something done to the vessel and they're testing, but what I think is more likely is they have a new crew on board. So they've taken the vessel out, and they've, so everyone can get used to the vessel, and maybe they're practicing dropping tenders in the water and stuff like that. Hence the reason why the vessel isn't moving. That's the only thing I can think of. If the vessel had broken down or was in some sort of trouble, they would have been dealt with by now. But anyway, guys, that is something that I'll keep watching, and I'll let you know in a future video. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching. If you've got any information about any of the stories I've covered here or any other stories, please be sure to get in touch. The normal way is through the YouTube channel on the About page, or you can contact me through Facebook Messenger. And please be sure to subscribe here, like the video, and hit the bell there so you get all of the notifications for future videos. All right, guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll catch up with you soon. Bye-bye.